the Arianas.
We're going to answer things simultaneously.
Yeah. Ariana and Ariana.
Okay.
Sabrosura pa' ti que.
Hola, hola, welcome back to Café Con Pam. Yo soy Pam y aquí compartimos nuestras historias over cafecito en Spanglish. Bueno, el día de hoy tenemos una conversación with two Arianas. Ariana, empecemos con Ariana with one N. Ariana con una N y Ariana con dos Ns, so you'll hear us throughout the conversation. Ariana 1 and Ariana 2 because of the Ns. Ariana with one N, Ariana Torres, is a San Diego-born curator of Filipino and Mexican descent whose work centers on cultural storytelling through textiles, jewelry, and fashion. As an assistant curator at the Mingei International Museum, she curated La Frontera, a cross-border jewelry exhibition, and is currently leading Fashioning an Icon, an upcoming show exploring the Virgen de Guadalupe in textile design. Ariana también supports Filipinx representation in film through her work with San Diego Filipino cinema and contributes to international dress history conversations. Ariana 2, Arianna Ytselle, is a Chicana photographer and curator from Stockton, California. She's based in San Diego and has been using photography's power as a storytelling medium since 2008. She aims to challenge stereotypes and confront misrepresentations, presenting an unapologetic celebration of cultural pride. In addition to her photography and mixed media work, Ariana devotes time to organizing community art exhibitions, extending her intention to uplift, connect, and hold space for other artists across her multiple creative endeavors. Bueno, listeners, this conversation, I hope you enjoy it because it's actually at the museum, actually at the exhibit of Fashioning an Icon. So not only will you be able to see us sitting there with all the art, but also you'll be able to then also get a little bit of a feel of what it's like to be there. Definitely, if you are in San Diego, go visit the Mingei. It is an awesome museum. They are always inspiring me with the artists that they bring and interviewing not just the curator, but one of the artists, because Ariana number 2, Ariana 2 with 2 N's, is one of the it's the photographer. So we were actually, when we were sitting there doing the interview, her photos were displayed on the back, which was super cool. And she got to also talk about some of the stories of the photography and how even her as an artist, she felt that talking to Ariana 1, she would kind of like get that validation, like, is this photo okay? And Ariana, as a curator, was like, this is your art and 100%, which is so powerful. And so I had a lot of fun doing this interview. I hope you enjoy it just as much. Y aquí está mi conversación con Ariana Torres y Arianna Ytselle.
Welcome to Café Con Pam. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, this is super fun to do the actual interview at the museum. So, you're one of the artists. We are witnessing your beautiful art in the back.
Behind us.
I'm just going to say Ariana and Ariana because it's Ariana.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Ariana, you are one of the artists and you are one of the curators.
Yes.
Or the curator
Yes.
of this specific exhibit.
Correct, yes.
So, let's start with the curation. Mm-hmm. How did this come about?
Well, it's really funny. So this is my first curatorial role. I'm the assistant curator here. And in 2023, when I started, they had this loan. It was this collection of garments from Mexico, from across different communities in Mexico, and it's called the Rosas y Verbaciones collection, from an arts patron, Linda Hanna, who's based in Oaxaca. And so they had this loan, but there wasn't really a framework on how to present the exhibition. And so I looked at all of her beautiful pieces, and it really made me consider seeing her different iterations on each garment. I thought about not only how people interpret her visually differently kind of each time while remaining a very recognizable image, but also thinking about the different meanings she has with every interpretation. After seeing the work, I started to think about the more local element here. I'm born and raised in San Diego. I like went to a school called Our Lady of Guadalupe Church in like Logan Heights, where Logan. And so I was like, there's no way that we can like have an exhibition about the Virgen in San Diego without representing her with like local work and local artists, because she's so present in San Diego. And so between like the local works and the collection, really looking at one, like how the Virgen has evolved kind of throughout like history, through garments and worn accessories, thinking about how there's like a really deep craft element to her storytelling, because, you know, like the story of her on the Tirma of Juan Diego is an object of craft. It, you know, it's woven out of agave fibers, it's painted over, and so it's this blend of like indigenous and European traditions in one garment, which kind of like encapsulates kind of her hybridity too as an icon. And then really thinking about how garments and imagery are just really important to our cultural heritage, to maintaining cultural heritage, like despite everything going on, and how that's like very powerful for us, right? And so it's like looking at, again, like her, you know, her history and how she's evolved through garments and textiles, thinking about how her meaning has evolved, thinking about craft, and then thinking about like its ties to identity, and also just like her presence in everyday life. So it's all of these things in one exhibition, a very colorful exhibition. And yeah, it's been really good fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Ariana's an artist.
Yes.
How was it for you to curate the photos that represent the Virgen? And before we were recording, we were talking about how you wanted it not to be like just the abuelitas.
Yeah.
You know, just like grandma's going to church.
Yes.
So tell me more about that.
Well, when Ariana reached out to me, I was like, oh my God, I've been taking photos of La Virgen. Just anytime I go to Mexico, my parents live in Guadalajara. I go to Mexico all the time. And I feel like she's always there, right? Like, it doesn't matter like where you are, like someone has like the taxi driver has her picture like up, you know, right at the front, or like you're getting tacos and then there's like a photo of altar of her in the corner. So then it kind of made me think of like what I'm used to seeing when I'm visiting my family, and then like how we can encompass that here in San Diego. And then from there, it was like, okay, I obviously want to include where we find her publicly in San Diego. But then also I'm like, well, we don't just like, it's not just public, it's also personal. It's in people's homes. It's people's tattoos. It's like, I have La Virgen on my leg, you know, like, why do I have La Virgen on my leg?
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, well, hold on. Instead of it being public, I wanted it to be a balance of public and also personal. Like I went to people's houses and we did photos, and people, I was like, hey, would you mind if I do a picture in your house? And then it kind of just turned into this whole project of like, it honestly evolved on its own. Like it turned into that. It turned into it being about highlighting local San Diego artists. It turned into it being something collaborative. Like I feel like the project was different from what I first planned it out, but I let it kind of just flow. Like, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to trust it and I'm just going to go with it.
Organic.
Yeah. And I think the photos speak for themselves.
How many did you not put in?
There was a lot. I think also the hardest part was kind of figuring out exactly when the project was over. Like, I knew I obviously had a deadline.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Like, I was like, okay, I know I need to have all photos submitted by this day. I know that. But then even as if I was shooting, like going out and taking pictures, that was so hard because I feel like we don't stop honoring La Virgen, you know? It doesn't just end with these 30 photos. It's ongoing, it's continuous, it's with every other art piece, every other mural that comes up, every other new Virgen tattoo that's probably happening right now as we speak. You know, like it's ongoing. So then that was really hard for me to like look at all of the photos and be like, okay, like, yeah. Guess the winner. You know, it was so hard. Hard.
Yeah, I mean, that's really funny too, because I picked, you know, we have Diana Benavidez's work here, which is she uses like the piñata like material to conjure up associations about like cultural associations, and we have Claudia's jacket called Guadalajara, and I was really excited to include like Ariana's work, one because like it's photography, which we don't normally include, but also like I wanted people to like understand that like it doesn't stop here,
Yeah.
right? Like it exists outside of this gallery.
Yeah.
So I love that you're like, it's like endless because like I wanted it to be that portal for people to like have that be kind of like a spark for people to be like, oh, let me like go outside and like look around.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think when I started looking at and reading on this exhibition, I'm an art kid. So I went to art school. So art's great, really.
Me too, yeah.
And I thought about, like, I had this epiphany and I want to hear your thoughts on it. How in American culture, people wear the flag really proudly.
Mhm.
In Chicano culture, or like Mexicanos especially, it's the Virgen.
Yeah.
So we don't wear, I have zero need to wear the Mexican flag.
Yeah.
But people will immediately put the Virgen on it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like, oh, for us it's the Virgen. For Americans, it's like the American flag.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's like a huge, point for this exhibition too. One, because I think like, like I personally think that she's way more accessible and more broad than the Mexican flag. I think, like just kind of like national flags in general can be really fraught and they can become associated with, like political turmoil or inequality. And I think like what works about La Virgen is like she has so many layers to her and she's kind of like ambiguous and contradictory, coming from like the Catholic colonial church and then becoming like a symbol of resistance. I think like her ability to like evolve and change kind of with every movement, every decade, every person that comes in contact with her is like really what makes her special, right? And like anybody can kind of like look at her or interpret her in any artistic style and connect with something there.
Yeah. I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think also coming from like a Mexican, so I can only speak for me as a Mexican.
Yeah.
From a very macho culture, like the fact that men are willing to wear a woman as a symbol of like power and resistance in matriarchal, iconic ways is also like really interesting.
Really interesting. Especially as she's become adopted as like a feminist figure.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's so funny too. But I feel like it isn't, whether that's here in San Diego or in any other neighborhood, I feel like you can always walk in to like a Mexican or Chicano like household and she'll be there.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks to goes to show how much bigger she is too. Like she's impacting different people, different generations, different, like whether you're a woman or a man, or it is your abuelita, but it's also like the kid that's now like 16 and like learning how to paint. You know, like, it's everywhere and it's everybody.
And how she's not necessarily like always associated. She's really grown bigger than like religion. She is her own kind of belief system and religion. Like it's not just tied to the church. She's like something so much bigger. Yeah, I'm sure like all of these artists probably don't go to church every day. Like, I would assume. I was like, I don't know. So it's interesting to see like how people have kind of detached her from religion to be her own thing. Totally. Yeah. So what are you expecting for people to see your art and for people to walk through the space and see all the textiles? And before you answer that, why textiles specifically? So, for people that are unaware, like La Virgen's or one of her more popular origin stories is the story of her appearing to a man named Juan Diego on the hill of Tepeyac, which is now Mexico City. And so there was multiple apparitions, and during one of the apparitions, she instructed him to collect Castilian roses on the hillside and then bring them to church leaders as proof of her existence and her existence of appearing to him. And so after he brought the roses to church leaders, he unfurled the garment, which was his tilma, and then there was an image of her in addition to the roses. And so it's really interesting how her story is then so tied to garments and what we wear. And so it's just really interesting to see, how she's been used in banners, like Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla, how she's been known, to be on banners for the Zapata movement and the Mexican Revolution, and how she was used on banners for the National Farm Workers movement. And also just, again, how we're seeing her on jackets today. And tattoos. Really, people still wear her on their skin. Yeah, just everything that's worn is really interesting. And so it's I think that element of seeing her on garments is really important to her storytelling, garments, accessories, tattoos, jewelry. It's a fascinating framework to understand like who she is and like why people are connecting with her. Because we wear clothes, and like clothes tell us a lot about ourselves without us maybe knowing it, you know, like we can be very intentional about like what we wear, and so like we clearly want to project something with what we wear, and so I think it's like, yeah, like having La Virgen as part of that is just like a really fascinating thing to explore.
Totally. What do you expect people to get once they walk through?
I hope that people understand that, one, I hope they're wowed by just the amazing garments that are on display, like, right, because these come from different artists across various communities across Mexico. Most of them identify from indigenous communities, mostly Zapotec, but we have like other communities represented too, and they each have their own distinct style and textile techniques that they are masters at. So one, I hope that people go through the exhibition and then are like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize that Mexico had all of these different like craft techniques, and that they were known for these different craft techniques, and how it's not a monolith, right? I hope they get that. I hope they're really inspired by the garments. And I also hope that like in the way that you can't kind of like see Mexico as a monolith, I also hope that they realize that La Virgen's image and her meaning is also not just like one thing.
Yeah.
I hope that they understand that she's like a very nuanced and complicated figure, and it can really change from person to person, like what she is, who she is, and what she represents. So like in seeing like her different visual iterations, she also has her different like meanings with each iteration too. So I hope they leave with just kind of a wider idea of what La Virgen is and what textiles in Mexico are and what La Virgen is to our community too.
Totally. For Ariana artist.
Ariana number 2.
No, I'm Ariana number 2.
No, I'm not.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That's true. I got that on one
Okay.
end.
Yeah.
One end, two ends. Okay.
No, I mean, I think you said it beautifully. I think that definitely, like, La Virgen it affects people, it has a different impact on different people. So, like, my focus with my piece, it's called En Cada Rincón, which kind of goes to saying, like, wherever you are, like, she's there. And it's like, I think that's just so beautiful, where it's like, you may not be looking for her, you may not even notice it, like, but she's definitely she's there, just like in the corner, you know? And I think that that's definitely what I wanted to find and bring. And I wanted to specifically highlight, I know I mentioned it earlier before we started, but like having the younger generation, where it wasn't just like la abuelitas, where I didn't want like a really like religious cookie cutter like interpretation of like La Virgen de Guadalupe, because like you said, I don't go to church, but like, why do I have so much gravitation towards like La Virgencita, you know? So I think it was kind of like, okay, well, I don't want it to be so like, this is just like from a Catholic lens. Like, I wanted to find younger people that still gravitate towards her and like still incorporate her in her home, on their, you know, on their skin, in their clothes, and then just like, and still pay such big homage to her. And like in their car, I think, this one, and their
Perfect timing.
Like, it doesn't matter where, you know, like, de veras, it's like, it doesn't matter where you are, you're still gonna find her somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think,
Or she's gonna find you.
yeah, that's true.
Want to.
All right.
So I think that's definitely what I wanted, and I want people to get when they look at this collection of pictures, where it's like, okay, wait, she's not just a religion.
Not just in a church.
Yeah.
She's in stores.
Yeah. She's outside.
She's on your skin.
Yeah. She's not just a religious icon. There's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
So many layers.
Yeah.
Now, as both of you being in the art world in the US is still something, I have artist friends, and it's something that there's friction by showing your art in places that are very white still.
Yeah.
So do you think this exhibition would have been if you weren't here?
I think so. I think, I mean, the reason why I gravitated toward Mingei, like working here, and I've worked here on and off for, oh my gosh. So I actually started as a volunteer here in 2013.
Nice.
And then like,
There's been a lot of changes to this museum.
I know, yeah. And like worked my way to like working in the library, to working with the art collection. And then I left for grad school and came back to San Diego. And I've somehow find my way back and to be like a curator here. And I think, especially, you know, like post renovation, we've really tried to be intentional with the shows that we put on here, really trying to represent underrepresented communities and voices, and like not necessarily like us telling their story, but like empowering artists and communities to tell their own story. Because I think that's really important, right? Like even with me, like I'm like, my dad's Mexican, my mom's Filipina, and so like I think it's really important to like empower communities to tell their own stories, so that like, you know, like you don't necessarily always need like a white savior figure to like help you get to that point. I've been really proud at like the shows that we've been able to put on here, especially because I think that we really want to include like local voices, and then like look to our community to be like, we have it here, you know, like with Ariana's work, with Diana's work, with Claudia's work, like we don't need to like look further out. Like, you guys, like we have amazing people in our community and amazing artists in our community, and they deserve their time to shine.
To be in museums, not just in murals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How is it for you to see your art inside a museum?
I was the first time I was like, wait, but when she emailed me, I was like, is this a scam?
It happens.
I was like, I get scam emails all the time. Is this a scam?
Because I did it through your website.
Yeah.
Oh my God, those are definitely scam emails.
So I was like, this isn't real. But then obviously, I remember I screenshot it, I sent it to my sister, and I was like, is this real? And she was like, just respond and see what happens.
Older sister or younger?
Older sister. I'm the baby.
So my sister would have sent it to me. Yes.
Yeah. Any minor inconvenience, I run to her. So I like sent it to her, and she was like, "Yeah, respond and see what happens." And I was like, "Okay, I guess if I get a bug on my computer, I'm blaming you."
Right.
But no, I was obviously really excited. I think this is my first time working with the museum, and because, like I said, the project kind of took on a voice, I feel like, of its own, and I kind of just had to learn to trust it.
Yeah.
I was like, even thinking like, oh, like I don't even know if like you're going to be supportive of it, where it's like not always in public spaces, where it is in people's homes, where it is that like I was scared that I was going to get any type of pushback or anything that was like, oh, well, maybe they don't want to see it on tattoos, maybe they do want like a cleaner version. And so I was like a little nervous, but I just had, like I said, I had to trust where it was going and how the project was moving. And then when we met, or when I was like showing you like photos throughout, or like even the one of Giselle with like the Virgin painted on like her head, like the like
the hair.
So cool. That was so cool. But even then, I was like, okay, is this like too like? Is this not what you're envisioning? And then every time we met and I showed you anything, you were so supportive, and there was like absolutely no pushback on anything from the museum. Like, I think it just goes to show that they really are about empowering just like the artist itself. And I was like, oh my God, okay, yay. I didn't feel censored in any way whatsoever, which made me that more excited to like work with you and work with the team.
I was like, show me more. What do you have?
No, it was thank you so much.
And I asked that because when I was going to school, I never saw people like me in museums.
Yeah.
So I didn't pursue art like visual, because I was like, I'm just going to be painting for murals on the street. And so it's really powerful to see us represented, to see people that look like me, that sound like me, and to see this, because even earlier when we were talking about the student exhibition, also them going through and seeing other types of artwork is powerful.
No, I think it's really important, right? Like, representation is just like one part of empowerment. You know, like I think it's like also being intentional with like representation too. Like, representation alone like is not going to save us, right? You have to be really intentional with your messaging and who you're uplifting and the message that you're uplifting. And like even growing up here, I mean, I think I was privileged in like being very entrenched in like the Chicano like art community here, and also like in the Philippine arts community, to like see myself represented in like those spaces, and like, you know, having a very supportive like family system that like were like, yeah, like if you want to do art, like do art, you know.
Nice.
And I like I'm proud to come from a family that really pushed for that. Because you're right, like it can be very intimidating to enter historically white spaces and being like, oh, like I don't belong here. And so like I hope that the work that we're doing here like changes that, and also like shows that like a culture, like, you know, for take Chicano culture, for example, like it doesn't have to just be one thing. It could look so many different ways. Right. Because like, I mean, that's a huge part of identity. You're like, oh, like I don't like fit maybe like this stereotype of like who I should be in my culture. And so I hope that we like do allow space, and like I hope that I can continue to explore like different facets of like various communities to be like, we're not a monolith, like we are all everything.
Yeah.
Totally. Because even seeing the possibilities gives you possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, somebody that might not be like, oh, I'm like not that kind of person, like maybe my work doesn't fit in a museum because like I'm not fitting in with an idea of what they might consider part of that community. It's like, no, there's like space for everybody.
Yeah. So tell us about the museum. So what should people know about the museum? How long is this exhibit going to be on for?
Yes. So Mingei International Museum is a folk art, craft, and design museum. So there's like so many possibilities in the exhibitions that we show. We not only have, you know, the Fashioning an Icon exhibition opened on Saturday, April 5th, and then it goes until September 7th. So people have a lot of time to see the exhibition.
Come see it.
We also have a student craft exhibition, which is also open until August 17th. And then we'll have Across the Spooniverse, which features kind of spoons from around the world. And then we have Historic Footprints, which is a Native American ledger drawing exhibition. And then we have a quilt exhibition opening, and then we'll have an armadillo show opening. So again, like you can just like see like our just like museum has like so many potential for like what we can explore. And I think that's like really you can see that in just the shows that will be opening in spring.
And you do a lot of activities.
Yeah. We have a lot of workshops that tie in with our exhibitions. We do amazing programming. We'll have a curator tour, actually that's already sold out for Thursday. And we'll have like an artist talk. One of the artists, Monica Diaz, who is in the exhibition, she has like the woven palm piece. She'll be here for our first Spanish language talk and workshop during the spring. And yeah, we have like a lot of like kid workshops as well, a lot of like family events. And so like, I think we really try to be mindful of like offering something for everybody.
Bueno, that was the conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Drop a comment, subscribe, rate, review, do all the things so we can continue to share stories like this in our channel. Café Con Pam is shifting a little bit, and so we are going to start focusing more on sharing interviews on YouTube. And so, especially tell me, I would love to know if you like interviews like this. If you like interviews where I show up with my equipment and we do the interview in the environment of the guest. How fun is that? I love traveling to the environment of the guest instead of bringing the guest to a studio with me. I think it's more powerful to be at the guest studio, and not that we'll only interview artists, but what if we do it in their living room and maybe they serve us cafecito? I don't know. Tell me what you think. Drop it in the comments. Share this with whoever you think will benefit from it. If you're in San Diego, please share with your San Diego friends. Make it a day. How many times I've been hearing this conversation a lot of like, because I don't drink alcohol. And so oftentimes when it comes to thinking of like, what am I going to do with my friends? The museum is a great alternative. You don't have to go to a bar. You can go to the museum and then go to a coffee shop and discuss what you learned, discuss what you saw. How fun is that? Let's get back to basics. Bueno, gracias por estar aquí. Sigue brillando y nos vemos en nuestro próximo cafecito.
Sabrosura pa' ti que